This is Math 1012, Foundation of Mathematics, Session 24.1, Introduction to Decimal Numbers. Now, decimal numbers is probably the easiest subject within this class because you deal with it all the time. You use it when you talk about buying, purchase, selling something, paying taxes. So it should be no stranger to you, right? I just want to go through some of the problems that is in the homework. Some of them could be strange. It's not something that will be phrased the way you will use in real life. So first, let me just go through the kind of the decimal systems. So for the decimal system, let me just randomly type of a number. Say this. So that the numbers on the left, the digits on the left of the decimal point, of course, it's called the whole numbers, right? So this is the ones, right? The zero is the one, and then the one here, that's 10, right? Now, on the right-hand side, it turns out, here's how it goes. The very first digit to the right of the decimal point is what you call the tens. So the digit right here, 1, is considered the tens. The one to the right to that, so the 2, right, is the hundredth. And of course, the next one's going to be the thousands, right? So essentially, it's the opposite, kind of like parallel with the guys on the left, right? So just go in opposite order: tens, hundred, thousand, and then you have the 10,000s, right? 100,000, just like that, right? And then of course after 100,000 would be a million. So it'd be like this. I think it's like that. So of course, a lot of times in everyday life, we'll just say tens would be one decimal place, right? Or the first decimal place. Hundreds would be 2, right? Thousands would be 3. 10,000 would be 4. 100,000, of course, would be 5. Then millions would be 6. So a lot of times we say, oh, 6 decimal places, 4 decimal places. This is what they mean in a formal setting. Now let's look at some of the homework problems. So this guy right here says, round the following number to the nearest thousand. So let me just talk about, just the basic of rounding, right? Rounding is basically if you have, for example, 5.2356, for example, right? I would like to round this number to the nearest, say, hundredth. So the first thing you gotta do is think about what does the hundredth means, right? Go up here and say, well, hundredth means 2 decimal places. So that really just means round to the nearest, or just round to 2 decimal places. And I think that is a lot easier when you conceptualize it. 2 decimal places means you go 2 decimal to the right of the decimal point. So you go, this is basically it, like the 5.35, that 5 right there, that's the last digit, the last decimal place that you want. You just have to think about, well, to the right of that is 6. Just remember, when you're rounding, if it's 0 to 4, you keep it the same. Whereas if it's 5 to 9, you'll have to round up by 1 value, right? One, by one the digit place. So right here would be, since this is a 6, that will round this guy up to 5.36. So the answer is 5.36. So let's try to use that particular method onto these guys. So this guy is 572, and that's not comma, not a decimal place. So 572,228, and right? So 0.18. So they want you to round it to the nearest thousand. See, the problem with this question is they want you to round to the nearest thousand. Notice they didn't say not the thousand. So you gotta be careful, right? They are trying to trick you. They're not trying to talk about the decimal numbers at all. They're just talking about thousand as in three zeros. So like 1,000, 2,000. So in this case, right, you have to look at from here, the two right here. You have to decide the two right here. You have to decide would this become a 2,000 or 3,000. So basically, the choices are choose between right 573,573,000 and 572,000. I'm gonna pick one of these. Which one is this number closer to? Again, look at the number here, the digit here to the right. It's 2. If it's between 0 to 4, you keep it the same. So the answer is this guy. And I know a lot of you guys already know it, but it's good to just kind of, get a refresher on this. 570,000. You don't have to put a comma, but if you do, it's not wrong. Oh, my bad. 572,000. 572,000. There you go. So let's look at the next one. Round to the nearest 10. Well, 10 would be this guy, right? The 7, right? The 70. So in our case, it would be 2380 because the 5 to the right in the 1 place, round the 7 to an 8. Done. This guy identified the place value of 7. Now 7 is right here to the right. 1 place to the right of the decimal point. Remember, the first guy is the 10th. Right? If you forget, you can always look at this, right? The first place is the 10th. So let's see, where's the 10 go? Right here. There you go. The next one is write the following mixed number in decimal notation. Now, don't get too crazy with these things. There are several ways you can do this, but one way I think is the easiest is so to convert a fraction into a decimal number, all you have to do is divide the numerator by the denominator. So in our case, right, is that say if I have A over B. All right. So actually, let me put that in a fraction. So if you have A over B, that would be A, and then just divide by B, and then just turn that into a decimal number. So in our case, you have 1 over 10. 1 over 10. All you have to think about is this. So the 94, just ignore that for now. Just look at 1 over 10. 1 over 10 equals to 1 divided by 10. And all you need to do is put it into the calculator. Now, I know some of you guys know the answer already, but it's just to demonstrate, just in case we forget, right? Put 1 in there first, divided by 10, 0.1, 0.1. So in our case, since we have 94 and then the fraction 1 over 10, right? So that's 94 and 1 over 10. All we have to think about is this, right? 94 is the whole number, point. 1 over 10 is 0.1, so that will give you 0.1 on the right. That's it. That's exactly what you would think it will become. Because mixed number, in the end, it's just an addition. It's just 94 plus that 1 over 10, which is 0.1. So that's the answer right there. Oh, I forgot to put the 94 here. like that. Now, just one thing I want to make sure that everybody's okay and comfortable with is in the future, if you see 1 over 10 or 1 over 100, actually all you have to do is think about this. 1 over 10 equals 0.1. 1 over 100 equals 0.01. 1 over 1000 equals 0.001. If I have 1 over, let's say a bunch of 0 here, right? You just got to count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 zeros. So all you got to do is move your decimal. You need to have 7 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 1. So that will give you 7 decimal places. So it's almost like you start from here and go left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that probably will help you down the road. And what if it's not a 1, right? What if it's like, say, 4 over or 5 over 100 or something? Same thing. It was 0.05. So you just write down number 5 and move your decimal places to the left according to how many zeros do you have. So now let's look at the next thing. So this guy right here, they want you to round to the nearest tenth. Tenth is the first digit right here, right? So it's either 7.4 or 7.5. In our case, of course, it will be 7.4 because the 2 would not bump it up. We gotta write this out in words. These guys are a little bit tricky because the question is how do you write that, right? So here, 261, so 261 and 261. This is the 3 decimal place. How would you formally say those things? So here's the deal. All you gotta do is first write down the whole number. So on the whole number side, it's 261. Okay, so we're gonna keep that. The decimal place, if you think about money, when you write a check, don't just say, let's say you got $1,000 and 50 cents, or $1 and 50 cents, right? Decimal place just means and what? Now in our case, it's 261, right? So kind of like when you have $1.25, you will say $1 and you don't say the cents when you just say 25. Well, we're gonna say 261 because that's what the decimal places give us. So 261 again, right? You just try not to be coincident. Then you have to decide 261 what? Now, when you talk about cents, that's easy because there's always 100 cents is a dollar. So you always go by cents. In our case, though, we can go beyond, right? So now we have 3 decimal places. 3 decimal places means 1,000, right? From the beginning, we talk about that. So since it's the last digit here is 1,000, we will have just to say, we just have to call it 1,000. That's it. 261, that's the whole number, and 261 thousands. So write that. Right. It's just, it's a mouthful. So you might misspell something, and if you misspell something on the test, I'll definitely give you full credit for it. I understand, right? I misspell all the time, on typos and stuff. So as long as it's, similar to the answer, I'll give that to you. So now, this guy is saying which one is bigger. I mean, just think about money. $3.53 or $3.55. Of course, it's $3.55, right? Then this one is changing it back to mixed number. Now the 47, all right, let me type it out. Let me type right here. 47 convert 47.09 into a mixed number. Now, right from the start, the 47 is going to be just on the side. So let me go ahead and do that. Equation 47. So now the question would be, well, what about the 0.9? Well, 0.09 means, here's all you gotta do. Put the 9 on the top. Right, put a 9 on the top. Don't even worry about what's on the bottom. Now you have to think about, we have two decimal places. Two decimal places means you have two zeros at the bottom. Who has two zeros? 100. So if you have one decimal place, that's 10. Three decimal places, 1,000. Going back to what we had over here. So now that will be the answer. So 47, 9 over 100. Very nice. So this one, identify the number in thousands place. That's gonna be age right here. I know the comma and the periods gotta be careful when you look at it. So let me just skip that. Round the decimal, to the 10. So yeah, these are all pretty much the same problem over and over. So, but that should give you a pretty good head start on this session here on 4.1. Again, chapter form, not very difficult. Just gotta make sure you understand the type of question they ask you, right? Some of them are just phrased very poorly, and some of them are, less practical in real life. So, thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next session.